They're ordinary people who have suffered, who are living torture, who are raising the flags of warning that some things are amok in the criminal justice system.
In the last 3 calendar years, Chicago police shot 167 people. 55 were killed. Black people were 122 of them. Latinos were 24. This is according to the Independent Police Review Authority. Of course, you know who that is, right? That's the police reviewing the police. Okay. Not a single police shooting was found to be unjustified. Even when the victim was committing no crime and had no weapon and posed no threat to anyone, the police were justified in shooting them according to the Independent Police Review Authority. A lot of people would talk about that as IPRA, you know. Okay, these statistics show that, and we're going to have somebody else speaking on this, you know, getting into a little bit more detail later, so I'm just going to highlight it. These statistics show that the police are targeting African Americans and Latinos. Howard Morgan was almost murdered by police for nothing more than driving while black in his own neighborhood. This is racial profiling. This is racism in the police department. But some of the officers who shot these people were black themselves, it will be said. We say that doesn't matter. Racism is institutional. And being that it is institutional, black people can be doing it too. You know, it doesn't just have to be white people. It's an attitude and it's a policy. You know, it's not always just white and just black. Okay, some of you may feel that police are supposed to be role models, that they're supposed to be the example of what's good in our community. Well, when the police feel they can shoot and kill people and never be called to account, that's not a good role model, you know. When the police are afraid to, when people are afraid to call police for help because the police so often kill the people seeking the help. A lot of people got killed because they dialed 911. When police have no regard for the rights of the people, especially black people and Latinos, but also people who are involved in movements of social protests, as we saw with the NATO demonstrations here. When the police have no regard for the lives of the people, when they continue to beat and arrest people for exercising their constitutional rights to protest, when police continue to torture confessions from suspects, when police who have been demonstrated to be torturous are rewarded with promotions and fat pensions. Now, they set up a torture commission, right? Who's been to jail for torture? What police officer? None, okay. That's the correct answer. Right. Okay. But now if I ask you who retired without a pension, you're not going to say none. When the commission set up by the state legislature and governor to provide relief to the victims of police torture is shut down by the same legislature and governor and blocked from doing its job. When police send agent provocateurs into the movements of the people to frame and entrap community activists. When police are in alliance with gangs to divvy up cash and drugs and enforce gang control of territory. When the police shake down drug dealers and gangbangers in exchange for giving them free rein in the community. Now, did I say anything wrong yet? I mean, do the police do this? Yes. Okay. So is it any wonder we have gangs fighting each other in the city? The police often act as the biggest and baddest gang of all. That's the role model they set. That's what they do. Now, if you look at our brochure that we put out, we said, police, separating the good from the bad. We had quite a bit of debate in our organizing committee as to whether or not we should put that on there, you know. We are a coalition of different organizations with different points of views, so we had to compromise and put that on there, you know. And that's okay. I'm not speaking out against that. We're not against the police serving and protecting our community. We just know from a long and bitter experience as an oppressed community that this is not what the police do, you know. So we're not against them doing that, but that's not what they do. So we have to talk about what they do, you know. At least this is my perspective, but it may not be yours. Okay, whether you share my ideas or not, I think there's one thing that we can all agree on. What's a murder? It's a crime. So if a police kills an unarmed person who has violated no laws, who they thought had a gun but had a cell phone, is that a crime? Yes. Yeah, okay, that should be punishable by law, right? Murder is a crime, you know. Murder is a crime. It's a crime that you and I can be prosecuted for and sent to jail for a very long time, or even given the death penalty. What makes the police different? They shouldn't stand above crime. So we can agree that murder is a crime even if the police does it, right? Okay. Now, if we can agree, and that's why this is called police crimes. If we can agree on what police crimes is, then don't talk to us about better police if you do nothing to stop police crimes. You know, I mean, what's the point of talking about a better police and you're not doing anything to stop the crimes that the police commit? Okay? We've had it up to here with the racism and whatnot that existed in the police department. And so we need to do something to stop it. The purpose of this hearing is to let you, the people, hear from the families of those who have been victimized by police. We have assembled a panel of representatives of the people to hear the testimony of these families. Okay, the panel includes people who, well, the panel, I was going to say the panel includes people who were elected to serve their constituencies, but they're not here, so I can't talk about that. So we have on the panel people who have been organizers in the community and who have also had some experiences with the police. And the solution has to come from organizing people to do this. You know, somebody suggested that we have a meeting with the Black Caucus of the City Council to get our legislation passed. I don't think that's the way we should go about it. I don't, because they've been watching this situation and they got a lot of information about it for a long time. You know, I think the way we should go about it is first organize the people to raise some hell in the community, and then go to them. You know, so we got petitions that are in your packets. You know, we need to get petitions signed. We need to do door-to-door organizing. We need to do all of these things in order to really create a groundswell of protests that will say to the city council, to the mayor of this city, and everybody else, stop police crimes. That's what we need to do. Okay, I'm not going to hold you up any longer. We're going to get to Louis already talked about how the panel is going to go, and so we're going to get to the victims. And that's the main purpose of this meeting, so we can hear from the victims. And so Sharice will handle that.
I have a list of pre-established people who will speak. I'm going to call the names. Whomever does not answer will move to the bottom of the list towards the end. If, in fact, they're not in attendance, then I would like at that time to call others who would like to speak who were not on the list. We're going to start with torture victims, and we will hear testimony from victims who were tortured by Chicago police under the Burge administration. In 1981, at the age of 16, Mark Clements was arrested, tortured, falsely accused, and convicted of setting a fire which caused 4 fatalities. Mr. Clements served 28 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit. Mark, can you please come up here?
Thank you. You know, being sent to prison at the age of 16 years old for a crime that was obvious that, you know, no kid committed. The reality and the reason why we are here is to spotlight the need for a true independent election board of citizens that can investigate these police crimes and shootings. And, you know, sitting inside of prison for 28 years and now looking at the mothers, you know, I don't see a father here. That's the sad reality. a father of a torture victim I don't see here. And that is something that concerns me. It concerns me even with the flow of this room. We are people that have adjusted to torture in our society. We are people that are paid to torture for a job. You have policemen, you have correctional officials, you have individuals within our corrections over at 26 and Cal. These are areas where that poor people are paid to torture other individuals. When is this going to stop? Why in the world would we have a large city like Chicago and there's not one elected official in this room? Many of you tweet, many of you are on Facebooks. Get off of Facebooks and the tweeting with the nonsense and put your words to action. All of these politicians have Facebook pages. All of them. Set them out. Everybody is looking and saying, well, listen here, I did this or I did that. We ain't did nothing. We're back at ground zero. Here it is in 2007. The independent Chicago review board, authority board, whatever they want to call it. We are people that gave the power to the torturer who was Mayor Richard Daley, and we call that justice. How could that be justice? Mothers are suffering. Fathers somewhere are suffering. Why? Why are they suffering? It's because we are people that won't get up. We should fill up the streets of Chicago and show outrage to torture before we can say that we have done something. We ain't did that yet. It should be masses of people marching in those streets and demanding whoever your elected official is for change. None of these politicians should be able to walk the street without being approached as to what they're going to do to restore the Illinois Torture Commission budget. We had a $59 billion budget. And you mean to tell me that we could not find $150,000 out of that budget? Elected officials are trying to make it appear like they didn't know. Don't bring that crap to me. You can bring it to other people, but you did know. You are an elected official that is paid, and you are paid to do a job, and that is to observe the legislation before you vote on it. Budgets, you have to at least know what's in it. They don't know what's in it. Once again, my name is Mark Clemens, and I want us, everybody in this room, to mobilize and come together, lay the indifferences to the side, and let's work as a unit. Thank you.
Gerald Reed was tortured in 1990 into confessing to a double murder. He is currently incarcerated in Stateville Correctional Center. Ms. Shackelford, Gerald Reed's mother, will testify on his behalf.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Armanda Shackelford. My son is Gerald Reed. My son was tortured. October 3rd, he was arrested. October 3rd, 1990. He has been in jail for 21 years for 2 counts of murder. The day they arrested Gerald, They were supposed to have been questioning him on the 2 murders to find out what he knew. Later, he found out that he had been charged with 2 counts of murder. That night, they put him in a car, and he thought he was going to another station, which they do. But after they got so far, they pull in an alley. They stopped the car, opened the door, told him to get out of the car. He got out of the car, they took his handcuffs off. They told him to run. And he told me, he said, Mama, I knew if I had ran, they was gonna shoot me. So what he did, he made him mad. He got back in the car and he sit down. And that made him mad. They took him back to the station. He was at 61st and Racine. The following night, they always did this at nighttime, late at night. The following night, before this incident happened, my son had gotten shot a few years prior. To put his leg back together, they ran a pin from his hip to his ankle. The second night of my son's arrest, they hit him on that leg. They broke that pin in that leg. They messed up his hip, causing so much pain, he got tired of hurting. So the information, they had already typed it out, what they wanted him to sign to. They knew what they wanted him to sign to, so they typed it up already. All he had to do was sign it. So after he got tired of them beating on him, he said, okay, I'll sign it, because I'm tired of hurting. He signed those papers. He has been sentenced to natural life in prison for something he did not do. Now, he was tortured then. He's being tortured again. They will not do surgery on his leg. His leg has broken several, that pin in that leg has broken in several places. They said they can't do the surgery because it costs too much money. It costs over $70,000. So I told them, I could see it if he did this to himself. This was done to him. So you torturing my son all over again, and that's wrong. The police feel like they can do whatever they want to do because they're police. They got this sign on their car that says, we serve and protect. You serve and protect who? You don't serve and protect me. You don't serve and protect me because I don't trust you. And you know what? It's sad to live in a world where people that's supposed to be watching out for us, you don't trust them? There's something wrong with that picture. Now, since my son has been arrested, he's been in prison in Statesville. He has been tortured since he's been in there. My son is on crutches. At that time, he was on one crutch. This was last year in August. This young man, his cellmate, had been outside. My son, he can't go outside. He can't go to chow. They have to bring his food to him. If they don't bring him nothing to eat, he don't eat. Now that has happened too. But last year in August, this young man came in and just started beating on my son. He choked him, and he looked over and saw his cane. He took that cane and broke that cane up on my son. So they had to put both of them in segregation. And I asked them why. Why would you put him in there? Because he was the one who was jumped on. They had to find out who the aggressor was. But now, why would you leave my son in his cell, no guards around? I've written the warden, no response. I wrote him again. I said, now, I know you're probably busy. You might not have the time to let me come in and talk to you. So maybe you can give me a call. No response. But since that incident happened of the beating, my son is on 2 crutches now. Now, they has said that he can't go to chow. So they have to bring his food to his cell. He went without food 4 days. When he called me and told me about it, I called down there. And I said, now, my son just called me and told me that he haven't been able to eat. So I want to know why. He's not allowed to go to chow because he's on crutches. And they said crutches can be used as a weapon. So when is it going to stop? When are you going to do what you're supposed to do? Why is it that he can't be brought food? They said they didn't even know nothing about it. What kind of system do you have? That this, the doctor stated that he can't go to chow, but you don't know nothing? They say it wasn't put into the system. So I thank you all for listening to me. I appreciate it.
At the age of 15, Johnny Plummer was falsely arrested, charged, and convicted of double murder. He is currently serving a natural life sentence in Menards Correctional Center. His mother, Mrs. Plummer, will testify on his behalf.
Hello, everyone. Hello. This is my son, Johnny. My son went as a witness to tell something that he seen.
Speak up, please.
My son went as a witness to tell what something he had seen that happened. He ended up being charged. What they did was took my son out the Audi home. He was already arrested on one case. They took him out the Audi home and took him to Area 3, which is 39th in California. They beat my son and made him confess to a murder, which he didn't do. So he been in there 21 years. They beat him all on his back. They beat him naked with no clothes on. They beat him all on the bottom of his feet. They beat him everywhere. And he called me crying, and I said, oh, Lord, what did happen? I went down there. My son had bruises all on his face, and you can see what complexion he's in, his color. You can see the dark black bruises in his back. They beat him, he couldn't even lay on his back. And what they did was a cover-up. They say the boys down there in the Audi home beat him. And I said, that's a lie, because they isolate him as soon as they brought him back. These two detectives went down there and got him and took him out, and they did this to my child. How can they allow them to beat a 15-year-old? And I'm so angry, I'm just mad, I'm upset. That's not right. They don't have the right to beat you. They're supposed to put handcuffs on you and read you your right. I don't even think they read him his right. And they say they didn't do it. Who did it? He didn't do it to himself. You know, and that's a shame. My baby in there with natural life, no possibility of parole. He could die in prison. And I'm not going to let that happen. Because he deserved to live like everybody else. He don't deserve this. Just 15, all his life is gone. He's 36 now. And I miss my child, and I want my son to come home. I want all the tortured people to come home. That's not fair. You know, I'm getting up in age. My health is failing. I don't want to die without my son being here. I want my son to come home. You know, this is not fair. How can you beat a 15-year-old kid like this? And you lie and can get away with it? It's not fair. I want those police to get hung. I don't care what they do to them. Because that's not right. How can you call yourself a cop with a badge and you're going to do somebody like that? Suppose this was your child. Other people don't want to hear your whining. They don't want to hear your problem until it knock on their door. Nobody want to hear your whining. Nobody want to hear your problem. But when it hit their door and they hit them in the face, then they'll see you not lying about the police, what they are capable and what they can do. This doesn't make sense. And it's still going on. Nobody cares. These are our sons. These are our kids. And if we don't push for this to stop, it can continue to keep doing it. They're going to keep on doing it. It's not fair. How can you just take somebody's child away from them and beat them like a dog and it's a big cover-up? Nobody knows nothing. Nobody knows what happened. Don't nobody care till it happened to them. Because I was sitting in my own mind. Well, police don't do that to people. They lying, you know, until it hit my door. And when I got the call, I cried. My life been hell. Do you hear what I said? My life been a nightmare. I can't sleep. All I worry about my child is he's okay. You know, you don't know what they doing to them behind bars. That's on camera in there and they're gonna hide everything. You don't know what kind of hell they going through up in there. And just think, he was 15.
Who's the officers?
One of them, I know one, Detective Kill. Some of these names I can't pronounce. Foley, Birchrow. I got all their names written on a piece of paper because I never will forget their name. Yep, all of those police officers. And it doesn't make sense. We need to stop. We need to start doing something now. We need to come together and organize.
All right, thanks.
Nick Escamilla was arrested in 1993 for gang murder. Nick was tortured and beaten into signing a false confession. He was sentenced to 30 years and released last year after serving 15 years in prison. His mother, Bertha Escamilla, will provide testimony on his behalf.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Bertha Escamilla. I have a son who served 16 years in prison. He's been home now for 3 years. And the name of the police officers are Kenneth Boudreau, John Helleran, James O'Brien. These are the police officers on John Burge. My son is innocent, and they made him sign a confession. They beat him. They threatened him that if he did not cooperate, that they would take his pregnant bitch and put her in prison. She was pregnant at the time, and she also had a 2-year-old baby. They promised him that they would make sure the baby would be put in a foster home, that my son would never see them again. These police officers do the same thing that they do to all of our children, who they have taken away. They kidnapped our loved ones. That's what they have done. They did not just arrest them, they kidnapped them. When my family tried calling the police station, they would lie about him. They would say he wasn't there. They take them out of your home. They take them out of the school. It doesn't make any difference. They are the law. They're able to do whatever they want to do. We cannot allow this to keep on happening. We have to do something. There is a lot of people here that I have not seen or don't even know. But I'm so happy to see that there's more people finally coming out. I am sitting down with a few ladies that are sitting here who have the same police officers that my son had. There's patterns of these police officers. These police officers are being investigated, have been investigated. And nothing ever happens to these police officers. They get away with killing innocent people. Just like how they are doing the same thing with charging them with crimes they've never committed. And nobody knows what to do when this here happens. At least I did not know what to do. I didn't know who to turn to. I was embarrassed by all of this. Most of all, I could not sleep. I could not eat. I almost lost my job because of this. You talk about being duressed, like Jesse Jackson Jr. What about what we go through? What do we go through? People have had heart attacks. They've gone through so much that one can't even talk about. And you'll never know if you have not gone through this. Thank you so much, and I hope these police officers get what they deserve. But that will not happen until we go out there and do something. Thank you.
Marcus Wiggins, at the age of 13, was tortured and beaten in signing into a false confession. His mother, Carolyn Johnson, will speak on his behalf.
My name is Carolyn Johnson. Oh. Excuse me. Every time we speak on this, I think I get stronger, but it still hurts. It still hurts because he was 13 years old, and we was at 51st and Justine, and me and him went in a restaurant to pick up some food. He went to go get on the phone, and I saw the police detectives, black cars, pulled up to the phone and grab him. So I thought they was picking him up for curfew, so I ran out of the restaurant and grabbed him. And he took him from me and said that he was taking him for a questioning. And I said, for what? He said, for a shooting. I said, well, I'm his mother, and I want to go with him. He told me, no, I couldn't go. And I said, well, I can't go. He's a teenager, and I need to go with him. He still took him. They put him in a car, and they held my baby for so long. And all that time they held him, they was electroshocking. And they was beating him in his chest. O'Brien beat him in the head with a flashlight, put knots upside his head. Oh, they didn't do it, but they settled out in court. If they didn't do it, they wouldn't have settled. Mayor Daley knew about it. It's so much. And then he was exonerated, and he come back. 7 years later, he's going to visit his son. Same detectives that we were told was fired. I was 30-some years old. I didn't know no better. Just me and my son, you know, and got pulled over, and they took him and said they didn't have him. And then Boudreaux, they spit in his face. And then on his second case, they came and got him and used the first case that he was exonerated from, rigged up something. They just rigged the system up. They said they're not above the law, but to me, they said they ain't supposed to be above the law, but to me, they're above the law because they're still out here working. They still out here able to get revenge. They still out here to do other things to people, prey on people, still doing it and still getting away with it. I don't understand. And y'all want the police officers take an oath, but they want to teach you. How could you teach your kids something that when you out there and you doing it? I wonder, do they sleep at night? I don't understand, and I still don't understand, because I've been protesting since so long with these same peoples that been out here being tortured. I've never saw these many people out here, and the only reason why I believe I see them now is because maybe they knocked on their door. Something happened that they done killed one of your loved ones or took them and kidnapped them and beat them. And it's not fair. I know it's a sin to kill. I know it's against the law to kill. But when you taking innocent people out here and taking them from their loved ones, so many mothers done died, gave up, quit, saying they ain't gonna get no help. I've been out here since '91, and I'm still standing here. I was diagnosed with cancer, lupus. I fell out. They put me in Jackson Park Hospital because of this same situation. And I'm still standing because I haven't gave up. Because I know that in the long run, God is not going to let these people keep doing this to his people. We can't keep doing this. And until we all get together, we got to stand together, and more people got to come out. Y'all need to come out so we can get them. They still under investigation. I wish I can share a lot more with you guys, but my son's case is still under federal investigation right now. And just like they got Burge, I think just because Burge in there, they all need to go with Burge. Locked up, get charged off the streets. Streets ain't gonna never get better. And these kids that's out here and us grown folks that's out here that's trying to get an understanding is why these people doing this, until you get the rest of these crooked, corrupted cops off the streets, it's gonna keep happening. Because if they can do it, they feel that the people out here can do it. So it's not right, and I am so grateful, and I thank God. I didn't think that there was a God, but just as sure as I'm still standing here, was they diagnosed me with cancer. I ain't believing that. The devil is a lie, and the devil's still a lie, because just like Burge went, those cops gonna go, and they need to go. And I'm gonna stand here, I'm gonna finish, and I'm gonna help fight till the Lord take the breath out of me, because I wanna see them officers locked up just like they will lock us up. If one of us did something against the law, they were quick to come get us. Quick to come get us. But they can still do it. All you mothers, all us single mothers, absent parents, fathers, that's not here with us. I've been standing here for a long time because some of my family members say they scared. I don't blame them. I was scared. And every time I got up here, I cried where I couldn't even talk. But I'm getting stronger as I go. And I thank God for it. And I'm going to keep on talking. I'm going to keep on protesting. I'm going to keep on marching. And these elected officials we got, some of them get mad when we get up and speak like this. When we get up and talk like this. Matter of fact, a lot of them get mad. And I used to get scared. I ain't scared no more. I ain't covering for y'all. I ain't sugarcoating nothing. And we need to get some elected officials in here that's gonna help protect us, like she said. Serve and protect. Serve and protect who? Themselves. It's not right. And Kenneth Boudreaux, O'Brien, Hollering, Kill, all of them. Well, Hollering wasn't on my son's case, but Kill was. And they know. And my son was shocked, tortured, beaten upside the head, and I was scared to death, but Lord knows I got up there. And my son said, Mama, find a picture that got the 10 Commandments on it, get with them coalitions, with the mothers, and testify, get up there. And I think God took my son to make me know that there is a God. And I got out here, and I'm gonna stay out here. And I'm gonna keep on lifting y'all up, and the ones that's not here, that then gave up and died, I'm gonna stay here and fight for us. Thank you.
Reverend Green from the Illinois Torture Commission will now speak. Reverend Green.
First, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. And I do that wherever I go. It doesn't matter. as I look out and see so many of your faces, many of you know me as the founder of Men and Women in Prison Ministry. Many of you knew my husband, Michael Smith, that was at the White Prison, Dixon Prison, who did 29 years. And for many years, I sat out here with all of you all, and I'm still here in spirit, and I'm out as much as I can get, but there's a few things I want to share with you. I know I'm here. When she mentioned the commission, I was like, wow, that's a great thing to talk about, because somehow I don't know how it happened, but I got called to be part of the commission, the Torture Inquiry and Relief Commissioner for the governor. I don't know how that happened, because I've been in the governor's face for all these years about my husband, innocent man, indicted for murder. And I'm looking out here and I see Dickie Gaines out here, and he know how many years, and all of us have fought for Mike's freedom. And I would like to announce to all of you, he is free. He's not alive on this earth anymore, but he's a free man. He died in Dixon Prison last year with stage 4 bone cancer and prostate cancer that we didn't even know he had. Did you hear me? Yeah. This was a strong man. In 6 weeks, he just deteriorated right in front of my eyes. I've never seen anything like it before in my life. Strong man, just went that quick. Undetected, stage 4 bone cancer and prostate cancer. Tell me how that can happen, and he get an exam every year. So my message to all of you that have loved ones still incarcerated, please know what's happening with them. Meaning, make sure that you know, because there were so many things I didn't know when my husband took ill that quick. I work with the Department of Corrections, meaning I don't work for them, I work with the health department. I work on trying to make sure that the people incarcerated have good health. That's what I do. Been doing that for a long time. But I didn't know that my own husband had prostate cancer and bone cancer. Tell me how that can happen. But when it happened quick. So I said to all of you that have loved ones still incarcerated, please know, even though some of them may be in the best of health, some of them may not. But there's some things that you must know before, if anything happened, where their health start deteriorating. Because I didn't know a lot of things that I needed to do as the wife of an incarcerated man. I didn't know the papers that I needed to have in order to make sure that I was able to get his remains. The things I needed to do while he was dying that made it possible that the morning he went into cardiac arrest that they called me at home and let me know. There's things that we have to do. We have to prepare ourselves for these things. So it's not gloom and doom. We're still fighting for his freedom because we want his name free, because he was an innocent man. And he did 29 years in prison as an innocent man and died back there, physically. But spiritually, we know he's still alive. As far as the commission, when I got called 3 years ago, got appointed 3 years ago through the governor's office, amazing. I started not to do it, but my husband insisted that I do. He said, honey, we can help some of the people that was tortured by Burge. He said, go on. I said, well, look, I'm fighting in these people's face all the time for your freedom. I don't want to be next to these people because I don't know if they're going to do the right thing. I don't trust them to do the right thing. But because my husband insisted that I do it, I did it. And I'm telling you, it was a lot of work, you all. For the last 3 years, we've been meeting 2 times a month, trying to come up with the right formula. It's just so much politicking. Every time we try the commission, now this commission was not a paid commission, just so you understand. It wasn't paid. None of us on that commission was paid. Right. Only one that was paid was the director and the secretary. We needed that. And I see some of the people nodding their heads that come to some of those hearings, and you would see me there. And my interest was to make sure I represented the community. I was an alternate. I represented the community, and I wanted to make sure that these guys that were still back there charged with the torture of Burge, that they were treated fairly and can get out. At first of all, I didn't understand why they had to have a commission. I thought that they would just immediately get out. Why do you have to have a commission to get them out? Why? It's already been proven that they've been tortured. Why can't they come home? But again, you know the politics and the layers and how they always set up these systems to keep us locked up. So I got on that commission. I was very determined. I didn't miss many meetings. I was always there. Then we get to the point where we actually reviewing cases. I'm excited now because now I can see that something's getting ready to happen. The last hearing I went to, a few of you were there. The hearing was on a Monday. We got notice on the Friday before the Monday that the commission was ending. I'm like, ending? We just got started. We just got to the point. It took us 3 years to get through all the bureaucrat and all the garbage and the maneuver that the state was taking us through. It took us 3 years to get to the point to start reviewing these cases. And you say it's over? I'm like, no, I don't understand. We got all these cases. These guys are still locked up back there. What do you mean it's over? But again, we found out on a Friday that the commission was in it, but fortunately we were having a meeting on Monday, and of course we all there, and we just boo-hoo. We don't know what the heck is going on. The commission is only $150,000. Come on. I know our budget. I work in healthcare. I know what the budgets are. $150,000, they throw away that kind of money. How can you dismantle a commission that you put in place during your election? You put this in place in order to help those that was tortured by Burge. But now you dismantle it because of $150,000. I don't get it. I don't get it. So, of course, we were reviewing cases and hearing, and I made it my business every chance I got to make sure that whatever I can do as a commissioner, whatever I could do to help get the people out, that's what I wanted to do. Now, whether or not the commissioner is going to continue, we don't know. We really don't know. We have a conference call coming up next week. I said they took a vote at the end of the last hearing and asked who all wanted to stay. I told them, look, I ain't going nowhere. Because first of all, you don't pay me. I'm here out of the passion of my heart and concern for my people. I'm not going anywhere. Now, there were some people that, you know what I'm saying, unfunded commission is just not, I'm here for the duration. I will be here if only 2 people show up. I'm going to be here because I think this is what I need to be doing in this hour. So I'll get back to you all and let you know what happened with that commission. We are about trying to get these people out of prison that was tortured by Burge. God bless you and thank you.
We will now hear testimony from victims of assault. Ms. Rosalind Morgan, are you here to testify? We'll move on now. Gregory Mandaruso? Malandrugo.
I work with the Free Howard Morgan campaign, so I get to say a few words.
Okay. I'm sorry. Your name?
My name is Alyssa Love.
Alyssa Love will speak on behalf of the Howard Morgan campaign.
Good morning. I didn't expect that I was going to speak this morning, but since they're not here and available. I said good morning. I didn't expect that I was going to speak this morning, but since they are not available to speak, I just wanted to give an update on the Howard Morgan campaign. Howard Morgan was shot 28 times by 4 white Chicago police officers back in 2005. He himself was a Chicago police officer for 8.5 years, and then a railroad police officer for the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad for 13.5 years before the incident. The stories told are as different as night and day. He was driving home in the wee hours of the morning on February 21st, 2005. He was allegedly pulled over for a traffic violation. They claim, even though he identified himself as a police officer, as the officers confirm in their testimony, they claim that he resisted arrest. Why they were arresting him, I have no idea, but it turned into a shootout, they claim. He says that he never drew his weapon. An independent eyewitness says he never drew his weapon. He got convicted of 4 counts of first-degree attempt murder this past January after a second trial. His first trial was in 2007. He was acquitted of aggravated discharge of a firearm and battery, yet 2 of the jurors who were Caucasian fell out, so they couldn't continue, and there was a mistrial. And then in violation of the Constitution, he was again retried, and like I said, just convicted this January. He's on his second appeal. The first appeal was after there was a mistrial and they were going to try him again. There was appeal to say that he shouldn't be retried. And then this appeal this time is appealing the conviction, and it's in the process now. He just received an appellate court number not too long ago, and the attorney working on his case is Lester Finkel. I think the problem with Howard Morgan and all the cases, well, first of all, Howard Morgan is blessed to be alive, even after being shot 28 times. But I think the problem is inherent corruption in the system and also racism. I mean, that's obvious. But I just came in also, and I apologize, I didn't get to have the benefit of all the speakers. But what I want to say is that I think we as people, we have a lot of power and we don't use it. I mean, our government rules us by the consent of the government. I mean, we consent to be ruled by the laws of the United States and, you know, the Constitution. But if they're not serving us and serving us equally, then, you know, consenting to that is really our choice. And if we want law and order, we don't want anarchy, then there should be a balanced relationship. Yes, we should obey the laws that are in place. We should respect authority, but in return, we should be respected also. And when we find that we are not, then we should make our voices heard. There are many organizations, Ted Pearson, God bless him for all that he's doing with this meeting. I heard that about the, you know, fiasco about it changing and all this and that. But there are several organizations doing the exact same things, and they're each doing it as individuals. We need a large, wide-based mobilization network, not just in Chicago, but across the country, because this is an epidemic. And it's not going to go away until we do something about it. If they see us, you know, 100,000 deep, 1 million deep, they're going to respond differently than if they just see, you know, 100 people in a meeting, videotaping a meeting, and complaining about the same things, you know, over and over again. Our complaints are valid, but without leverage, we're not going to have the power to do anything about it. All the officials, all the government, you know, people at every level are accountable to us, and we should make them accountable. And we can start by, again, unifying, creating a mobilization network, being in a database so that when we have meetings like this, or if there's sudden changes, we can get that information out right away, still be together, act as one, and also write letters to the U.S. Justice Department, you know, everybody at different levels of government, and stay active, stay involved, and disseminate the information. Walk around with it in your purse. You meet somebody on the street. Did you hear about this? Do you know about this? And just, you know, keep the momentum alive. So thank you.
Thank you.
Gregory Manindruko and his friend Matthew Clark were brutally beaten by two plainclothes policemen outside of Bucktown Restaurant in 2010 after an altercation inside the restaurant. Gregory, would you please step forward?
Thank you. I want to talk a little bit today about the issue. Can you hear me?
Just talk loud.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit briefly today about the issue of police impunity and the lack of accountability in our system. I feel like that's a common thread that ties a lot of these talks together, regardless of race, regardless of class experience. I feel like the impunity of police in our system and the lack of accountability is something at the structural level, at the level of our institutions, is something that reproduces in the minds of cops on the beat, of police when they're off duty. I feel like that's something that reproduces a sense of being above the law and a sense that officers can do as they wish when they wish without facing any repercussions. My experience, I'll speak briefly about, and then I'll tie this together. My friend and I were at, after spending the night out, we had a few drinks. We went for a late night burrito. This was 2.5 years ago, the morning of February 7th, 2010, and in Wicker Park. And we were getting up to leave the restaurant, and two men were coming through the aisle and said that we were blocking their path and pushed us out of the way. And we thought some words were exchanged. We thought everything was fine, and they left the restaurant. When we left, they were waiting for us in the parking lot, cornered us, and both men began to attack my friend, began to beat my friend. At that point, I intervened. I pulled one of the men off of my friend, and then he squared up at me and started to attack me. Both men beat us relentlessly for a minute. Then both of them, I guess, got tired or whatever. Both of them proceeded to leave, began to walk towards their car, and my friend, Matt, picked up his phone, dialed 911, and the man who had just beaten him for a minute, beaten him unconscious for a minute, looked over and saw my friend on the phone and ran and did a running charge, a flying charge in the air with a flying fist, and knocked my friend 15 feet across the parking lot. So we were attacked twice. So at this point, I intervened a second time and pushed both of the men off of my friend. At this point, both of these men turned their attack on me. They pulled me down and knocked my head against the pavement, and I lost consciousness for a brief period. By the way, all this is captured on surveillance video. You can see it on YouTube/CPD brutality. At this point, uniformed officers drove into the parking lot with the light on. Uniformed police officers came on the scene in the moment when I was being attacked. What would happen, let me ask you, if any two of you in this audience right now would go out to this corner and begin to attack somebody, and police came upon the scene, what do you think would happen to you in that situation? I think it's a given that the assailants would be apprehended, the assailants would be arrested and charged with assault. In my case, the assailants stood on top of me, holding my head down, and uniformed police changed places with the men who attacked us. And they changed places with the assailants. A uniformed officer gets on top of me, starts striking me, and the other officers walk the men who attacked us to their car, hand on shoulder, put them into their car, and let them off into the night. And again, this blue wall of silence is all captured on video. We were told during the assault by a woman accompanying the two men that these men who were attacking us were police officers. One of the men is wearing a handgun on his back holster in the video, and then the blue wall of silence being enacted between the cops and the plainclothes officers on video is very clear. We came home that night and reported to IPRA what had happened, and
What is IPRA?
IPRA, the Independent Police Review Authority, we came back from the hospital, concussions, broken noses, stitches, and we called IPRA, and what happened? IPRA told us, think very seriously about what you're doing. Think very seriously before coming down to report this. Think twice about what you're doing. You're making some very serious accusations. And my friend Matthew Clark said, I'm not making accusations, I'm speaking the truth. And the woman on the other line said, think twice about what you're doing. And that was the beginning of this relationship that we've had for 2.5 years now, ongoing, struggling for justice. We still don't know the identity of the two men who attacked us. Those uniformed officers, they know the identity. They stood in front of their car talking for a minute. They know the identity of those two men, and they've been hiding this identity, lying under oath for 2.5 years. And I want to just finish with this note on impunity and accountability, which I think affects all of us. Obviously, it affects as a social scientist. I'm aware that it affects people of color disproportionately greater every day in relation to a white male like myself. But the point is that the system, the way it operates, the way that police operate with such a degree of impunity, it can affect every one of you out there at any time, anybody. And on impunity, what was going through my mind when these guys cornered us in the parking lot and wanted to attack us? I said, I have to lecture a course on Tuesday morning at the University of Chicago. What do these men think? I am a cop. There's no way that anything will ever happen to me if I attack these guys. I'm above the law. I can assail these men, attack them brutally, and nothing will ever come of it. And I just wanted to finish quickly with saying that I'm honored to speak in front of you today. I'm honored to be out here in front of you all. I think that this is the beginning of something meaningful and powerful. I think that the time is now to build this coalition, to build this movement. Black, white, Latino, Asian, it doesn't matter. Christian, Muslim, atheist. The time is now to make this happen, to bring accountability to our system. This is our government. This is for us, by us. These police officers we pay them, right? The time is now to build this movement. Thank you.
On the morning of January 13, 2012, Jeff Carver was stopped by the University of Illinois Police. A white woman was brought to where Carver was being held outside and identified him as the man who came out of the building. Carver was turned over to Chicago police and falsely charged with criminal trespassing.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jess Caver. Everybody say Carver. But I want to first start off, and I'm going to be obedient. I thank God for giving me the opportunity to speak before you guys. And also I want to give everybody who's in here, give yourself a hand clap for showing up this morning. I also want to thank the National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression that involves Mr. Frank, Ted, Jeff, and other members. And also I want just to send out before I start real quick, just a prayer and thoughts to the people who, I don't know if anybody's aware of what happened in Aurora, Colorado. That's what my son and my daughter, they stay out there in Denver, to all the victims. So, you know, we just keep them in the back of our minds, prayers and thoughts, okay? First things first, getting down to what happened with me. On January 13th, I worked for Rush Hospital. January 13th is considered Friday 13th. Everybody think it's superstition. I live in the South Loop downtown. I walk that route all the time. I live 618 South Wabash. Walk from there to Rush. Rush is 1900. On my walking there, I had on my uniform, clothes, and everything. As I was walking, I've noticed the UIC. UIC is the campus, going westbound to Ashland. I saw them out the corner of my eyes. It was a white and a black officer. They turned around and they approached me. The white officer, who was like Chinese mixed, he was very aggressive. So everything they told me to do, I did. They asked me for my IDs. Now, mind you, this is my first time ever going to jail. Never been in jail ever in my life. So they asked for my identification. Showed them my work ID. I showed them my regular ID. They checked out everything. Everything came back clear. From that, I'm thinking everything is going to be okay. Then a second squad car, UIC, came. It was a black female officer and a black male officer. So at this point, they tell me to put my hand across the car. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? So the female officer asking me, looking at me, is like, I don't know why you looking at me like you crazy. I didn't say anything. So a third squad car came. It was the chief. The chief asked me, he said, look, it's saying that you came out the UIC building. I said, with all due respect, sir, the only building I came out is where I lived in. Then the fourth squad car had the accuser. The accuser works, I just found out, works in UIC where the president is held. Now, mind you, UIC is a public institution, so you can walk on there. I didn't even go on inside the institution. So I was asking them, why was I being stopped? They said I was being stopped for criminal trespassing. So the fourth squad car that had the white officer had the female white accuser. While I'm stretched out, I'm being graphic, across the police station car, she pointed and she said, that is him. They proceeded to lock me up. I was going, you know, like bugging out because I'm like claustrophobia. I said, look, I got on, I was like pleading with them. I have on my work clothes. You see my ID. That didn't mind them. I mean, they didn't care. So they locked me up, took me to UIC. From there, I'm thinking, okay, this is just a dream. From there, they're still doing findings. The next thing, find out, real quick, I go to Harrison and Kedzie for booking. I'm like, why am I going down here? The charge was criminal trespassing. So from there, I'm in Harrison, Kedzie. Okay, now, mind you, real quick, I have no criminal record, nothing, no gang, so you have an I bond. Now, letting you guys know things have changed. So I'm thinking that I'm going to get out. From that, they said I couldn't get out because guess where I was going next? They took me to the county. So I'm in here going through all the situation. Make a long story short, because I want to be obedient with time. State attorneys came down, asked me a question, blah, blah, blah. So I had to go before a judge. Go before a judge. I got out, thank God. It was $10,000 to get out. But let me tell you briefly how God is good. And I believe me, I am sympathizing with everybody. And that's why I am so happy. I thank God for Ted. And the reason I'm going to get to that, by all you showing up, is showing me that God is good.
Yes. Yes, he is.
God is good. So after that, go to there. I had to go show up to the judge for 3 times. The UIC police showed up once. The accuser didn't show up at all. On the 3rd time, that's when my good friend Ted came out and showed up with me. So, y'all saying God is good? I know y'all believe that.
Yes.
The judge on the 3rd time, he dismissed the case because. So that's all I want to say to you guys.
The homes of Joe Lossbaker and 7 other people in Chicago and Minneapolis, Minnesota, were raided by FBI on September 25th, 2010, at which time several items were confiscated. All were later summoned to appear before a federal grand jury in Chicago investigating alleged terrorist links. All parties refused to appear and have yet to be indicted for contempt. Stephanie Weiner will speak on Joe Lossbaker's behalf.
Sorry. I'm speaking on his behalf, but I was there as well, and also the other family that was raided by the FBI, Hatem Abadea and Mayset, who was there during the FBI raids. One of the many children who witnessed on the couch. There was many children. Anyway, 2 years ago, our house and Hatem and Mayset's house was raided by the FBI. We had, in my house, we had over 25 FBI agents. They stayed for over 10 and a half hours, and they seized over 35 boxes of belongings. In Hatem's house, while Mayset sat there, throughout the raid, they seized many things of hers, went through her belongings and the household's belongings. She said, "Papi, why are they taking everything in Arabic? They don't even speak Arabic." In my case, they went through my teenager's son's T-shirt collection and put them in 2 piles, controversial and not controversial T-shirts. I could make you laugh about the craziness that happened, but as everyone here knows, it's very real. It's undercover agents that were in our circles, our political circles, for over a year. That's fake names, fake apartments with microphones and cameras, driving in 20-hour car rides with activists. So you understand, these are big salary, big operations. There was over 7 houses raided, but there was other houses visited. Millions of dollars that get spent on these kinds of activities. In our situation, it was called Investigation of Material Support for Foreign Terrorist Organizations. I personally haven't even been to the countries that they spoke about, because what it really is a pretext. What it really was to scare the peace movement. And so it feels like apples and oranges that I'm here to add that piece of story, but I think people can understand. The FBI is very much connected to the police department, and they function in the same way, where they create realities, they create stories, they escalate stories, and so what they're really trying to do is put the fear in the peace movement and to slice and dice and keep us busy with court dates and lawyers. And like everyone here, what we're showing, we had a press conference while the FBI was in our house. So the real thing that I'm here to say is that the solidarity movement with Palestine or Colombia or the peace movement against the war in Iraq or Afghanistan is honored to stand with you all. So our story has, so far, there's no indictments. And the last thing, I'm sorry to say, but the very person that they took my passport and tried to change my life for the past 2 years, I want to bring something to the conversation as well. Who am I? Before I did international solidarity work, a lot of people here know I did wrongful conviction. So when I see Dickie, when I see Berta, when I stand and testify for Aaron Patterson, a lot of you remember me. So I'm just going to add, as the last thing, I live in Area 5. And the house that was raided was Area 5. And I just want to add, we did gang crimes unit wrongful conviction work. We started with 1 case, and we wound up with over 40 cases. A lot of people are still here. Went to police board with us every single month. We worked on the Jorge Guillen case back in the day. I just want to tell you, I have the scrapbook of all those years that we worked with Neighbors Against Police Brutality, and all those years we worked with Comité Exigimos Justicia, Jorge Guillen, Junito. The police can't use those large flashlights anymore. Why? Fight back, because we fought it. So I'm just going to end. If you want to know, FFF, free the wrongful convicted and all the support, fire and prosecute the cops that did wrong, and fix the system so that the OPS, the union contract, and whatever it is where they can wash their record, the cops can every 3 years erase their records. The cops can see what's in the file before they go in to testify, and they don't have to testify within a certain thing. All of those things are built into the police officer's contract. Anyway, how do I remember this? Because I fought with all of you 10 years back, and the basic F is fight back.
Thank you.
Family members of victims who were murdered by Chicago police officials will now speak on their loved ones' behalf. Flint Farmer was killed by Chicago police, Gerardo Sierra, on June 7, 2011. A patrol car video recording shows Sierra firing shots into Farmer as he lay face down on the ground. Mr. Farmer will speak on his son's behalf.
Thank you all. I'd like to have my daughter come over here and stand with me. Where's she at? She's here. My son, her brother, I got a call last June 7th, 4 o'clock in the morning, saying that my son had been shot 18 times by the police, and he was running from them. And, need to speak up more?
Yes, speak louder.
Again, my son, I got a call 4 o'clock in the morning on June 7th, saying that my son was shot 18 times. And they said by the police, and he only had a cell phone. He was unarmed and had a cell phone. So when I got to the scene of the crime, they told me that they were still investigating, and they were looking and seeing, making sure that he didn't have any weapons. And they found out again that he only had a cell phone. And it was Englewood, it was on 62nd and Walcott. And I thought, you know, just thinking maybe it was some young rookie cops, because it was at 1 o'clock in the morning. A young black man, he was 29 years old, you know, had a cell phone. Maybe they thought it was a gun, and fired, you know. And just not thinking that someone would actually murder my son. And that police officer, Godardo Sierra, murdered him. Until actually the Tribune came and interviewed me a couple months later and actually put an article in Sunday's paper on the front page and gave a website showing a video of the dash cam of this police officer's on his police car, of this police officer shooting my son in the back while he was laying on his stomach. Had already been shot 7 times in the leg, and the coroner actually said that if he hadn't shot him in the back, because one of those bullets pierced his heart, probably he would be alive today. And I thank God for revealing this to me. Because like I said, we didn't really know. We know what happened out here with, young black men, and anytime they see them, they're running or anything, first thing they do is shoot. But for him, and if any of you all get a chance to see that video, I wanted to actually bring it and show it today. And my computer, for some unforeseen reason, caught a virus and crashed. Know how that happened. But it's kind of strange. But his partner came through the alley, came around near Englewood High School, came up the street, and the dash cam caught the officer, Godardo Sierra. He was shooting him in the back, and when he seen his partner coming around the corner, he actually tried to hide behind the tree, and you can see the flashes of the gun going off. He's doing this like this, 3 of them. So, and then on the police, they actually ruled it a justifiable homicide. So that's crazy. So we need this legislation put into place so we can get the Citizens Review Board. There's no doubt about it, okay?
Stephon Watts, 15, was killed in his home in February 2012 by Calumet City Police. Police killed Watts because they said he threatened them with a butter knife. Renee Watts and his father, Stephen Watts, will speak on his behalf. Mr. and Mrs. Watts?
Yes.
Will speak on his behalf.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Stephen Watts. On February 1st of this year, Calumet City Police came to my home and shot my son right before my very eyes twice with a 9mm. My son suffered with autism, and this particular day he was agitated, and him and I were tussling, going back and forth. So I called non-emergency because I didn't want to have a heavy-handed response, and they ignored that, and they arrived in my home as if I called 911.
5 officers.
Like 5 officers. So when I talked to them, I canceled the call. I told them, I said, go away, Stephon's fine, I don't need you. And they said, well, we need to see you and make sure you're okay. So I stood at the door, I said, here, I'm fine. And they said they're not gonna leave until they see Stephon. I said, why do you have to see Stephon? We must see Stephon. So I called out to my son and I just told him, I said, Stephon, they just want to see you, make sure you're okay. And I told the officers only one of them can come and talk to my son just to make sure he's okay. Well, they ignored that, and they all came behind me, and went downstairs where my son was, and he saw the policeman, and he's autistic now, okay? He immediately just reacted nervously from the police. He had a butter knife in his hands. The police said knife. All they said was knife. And they took out their 9mm and they pow shot that kid once. He fell down. He tried to get back up and pow they shot him again. They shot that kid point blank range as if he had a bullseye right on his chest. They didn't have to do what they did, but they did it.
Not just that, they was never in my basement. The news media and the chief of police make it seem as if they were cornered in my basement. They were never. They were never in the basement. My husband and Stefan was standing at the foot of the basement stairs. Everybody needs to know this. And everybody needs to tell everybody this. My baby was standing at the foot of the basement stairs with his dad. And they were standing up top of the basement. They were up top by my back door, where they could have walked and gone out or go back up the same way they came. And if you all heard at first, we said he was shot in his head. The reason being is because they were up top shooting down and my husband thought it was in his head. Can anybody tell me why is there a justification when my baby is at the foot of the basement stairs and they know my baby? They're familiar. My husband always said, Donna, stop calling the police. Stop calling Calumet City Police. Because the doctor and the social worker that came to the house once a week said if he's agitated and you tell him to go to his quiet place and he's not hearing, don't agitate him any further. Call the police so they assist us. The only reason why they know Stefan Edward was is for medical reason only. That's the only reason to assist him in the ambulance for medical treatment. No other reason why they know him. But they put him on TV as if Stefan was running amok in Calumet City, and they deserve to wipe him off the face of this earth. That's how they put it on the news, that Calumet City Police is familiar with Stefan Watts, and that they have come to the house 10 times. They haven't seen him 10 times because most of the time when they came, my husband take off with him because he always said they're gonna murder Stefan Watts. And he take off, and there's 3 times when he was missing that we had to call them because Stefan don't know anything out on the street. And they come and shot my baby and call it justifiable. Can you all tell me he went down? Why is it they have an officer have to move out of the other way, out of his way, and make the other officer get his part in? 2 weeks before this murder, they said something that happened way back in December. And they came back and they did what they said, basically, 2 weeks before. And they did insist on seeing my baby, and they would never stop until he was dead. When he went down, wasn't that enough? If you thought you were in any danger, you up at the top of the stairs. You up at the top of the stairs. How are they in danger? Where is their danger?
I would just like to say we are trying to keep this from happening to any other families. We have a website called justiceforstefanwatts.com. There's a petition that you guys can sign.
We have it right here, and there's some.
I have a copy of the law, and it's a law for Stefan Watts where first responders have to be trained before they come to your home. They have to know how to handle these kids who are mentally disabled and disturbed. They can't just come to your house and all they got is 9mm. I mean, this kid is autistic, and the only thing they got is a 9mm weapon to deal with this kid? It's
He had a
ridiculous.
switchblade knife. They have no right doing what they did, but he had a butter knife. Not the knife they planted after they kick us out of the house.
So I wanted to read it, but I don't have enough time, so please go to the website. It's called justiceforstefanwatts.com. And you guys can sign the petition and just help us out with this, so this won't happen to anyone else. Thank you.
Prince Alim Bakhtu Akbar was 32 when he was killed in broad daylight by the same Calumet City Police Department.
Hello. I want to thank God for everything. I appreciate you all being here so much. The thing that I first want to say, my name is LaWanna Lampkins. My name is LaWanna Lampkins. This is my son, Sir Gerald Akbar. My other son, who was murdered by the Calumet City Police, was Prince Akbar, also known as Just Rhymes. I can recall once Prince told me, "Mom, if I ever get murdered, nobody would care." Nobody would probably care because he suffered bipolar. I was in prison. I was in prison 30 years for a crime I didn't commit. I'm the woman part of the torture. See, they talk about the men, which thank God that they're looking at what's going on with the men, because the men, basically everything they do brings us into the fold. But the women also suffer torture. The women also suffer beatings. I was tortured by the Chicago police. They took all my, he was one, they took all my children, they held Prince up in the air in interrogation, they jumped on me and they said, "If you don't say you committed this crime, you see him, you'll never see him again until he's a man." The worst thing to torture a woman with is her children. So I was 24 years old. I served that time, 30 years, even though the police came forth to Governor Edgar, Governor Thompson, and all those other governors are corrupt people, I don't even try to remember. But nevertheless, none of them looked at the fact that the police came forth and said that I was innocent. So, but in spite of that, when I got down to 28 years, my son was murdered while I was in prison. I was down to my last 2 years. Me and him were looking forward to our life. We were looking to our future. He waited 30 years. He stuck by me in prison. He was a regular visitor, a regular wife. The archives of, we had a beautiful relationship for mother and son, although we were separated. So he was murdered. That was taken from me, so I couldn't look forward to that anymore. I still had to do 2 more years and try to keep my sanity, because that's like a big slap in your face after the end of a long torture. But the thing about it is just that the fact that he told me that no one would care if I was murdered, and just to see you all here and know that you all care and that we all care about each other and what all of us are going through, it's just the most great blessing I've seen since I've been home in 6 months. This is beautiful. And I was truly blessed. God allowed me to still have one son. I have a daughter too. And after 30 years, we've reunited. I'm really excited about it. We're just not getting to know each other, but it's a blessing. He has to keep reminding me, "Mom, I'm a man, I'm not a boy." I'm like, okay, I gotta, you know, because when I left him, he was a baby. But nevertheless, Prince was just going somewhere else and used the phone. He got lost with his illness, bipolar, that he developed when he was 26. Oh, okay. So the police basically killed him because he stopped somewhere to ask to use the phone, and they said he looked suspicious. 1 minute and 20 seconds, they tasered him twice and shot him twice. So I lost him, but I just wanted my youngest son to be able to present a few words on behalf of his brother, because he was out here with him for the 30 years. So I just thank you all for being here and for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. I just want to say God bless all the families of the tortured and the murder victims. Okay, we'll have to project a little louder. This is obviously an epidemic. What is it going to take for us to get attention about this? Is it going to get? Is it going to get to a point where we, as family members, will have to bear arms and walk inside these stations and go off? Because that's where it's going. My brother was a college-educated man. He was an entertainer, a poet. That was the man that inspired me to go to college and graduate without no parents to lead me. That was my father. And when I look at every black man and black woman in this room, everybody in this room, I say, they're killing our children. They're killing our children like some terroristic, this is militaristic, how they stop and racially profile us. I never thought that I would live to see a day in which I will be convicted for not being scared of you. I'm a private American citizen. You are the public servant. We need justice.
All right.
We need justice. Thank you.
Thank you.
DeVelt Bradford, 52, was arrested November 16, 2011, and taken to Area 2 Police Headquarters for a murder of an unarmed security guard at Aldi's food store on the South Side. He was found dead in his cell at 2 a.m. November the 17th of an alleged suicide. Ms. Bradford, DeVelt's mother, will speak on his behalf. Mrs. Bradford.
Good morning, everybody. I am DeVelt Bradford's mother. I am so full. So just excuse me and bear with me, okay? It's all right. DeVelt Bradford was brought up in a Christian home. And I do not condone nobody wrongdoing. I don't care who you are. At the age of 14 years old, he got involved with drugs. Me, neither my husband knew anything about it. My husband sent him to many rehabs. But in 2002, my husband passed away. So I couldn't afford to send him to rehabs. He got involved with someone else who I don't know. And they decided that they would rob Aldi's. I never knew he had robbed Aldi's store. When I knew anything, the police was coming to my house on November the 7th, the 15th. Yeah, the 15th. At 2 o'clock in the morning. They knocked on everybody's door, woke up everybody. Quite night, I goes to the door and asks who knocking. They came to my apartment. They asked questions, a lot of stuff that I can't say because I've been advised not to say. But anyway, about 2:30, they taken my son out. After searching my apartment and all of that. They didn't find nothing in my apartment. Because why you know it or not, I'm a pastor. Yes. So I let them look, you know, it was okay with me because I knew it wasn't nothing in my house. I continually searched my house myself. But anyway, they taken my son out and they carried him to Area 2. I hope y'all hear this, Area 2 police station. That was on the 15th. On the Thursday morning, I went to back up a ways. I call an attorney. Quite actually, I'm calling to see if my son is okay because I still don't know what was going on. And they told me that my son was going to court at 10 o'clock Thursday morning. Told me to be there about 9:30. But Thursday morning at 6 o'clock, a detective knocked on my door. And he told me to sit down. I said, sit down? Sit down for what? He had knocked on other doors. By this time, my daughter had made it to my apartment. She said, my mother is a strong woman. Said, you tell her what you want. So he says, you the Bradford's mother? I said, yes, I am. He said, your son is dead. I said, he what? He said, your son is dead. By now, both of my daughters one of my daughters was there, so I called the other one, she came. They was very, very, very close. So I said, what you mean he dead? What happened? He said he hanged himself. I said, what? He said he hanged himself. I said, no, not my son. Anyway, I want you all to know this. I hope I'm not going against my attorney rule, because what I know I can say it 1,000,000 times.
Yes.
Because the truth will stand. You ain't got to think of words to tell the truth.
That's right.
He said, around 1 o'clock, they taking everybody off the floor, the second floor, except him, and carried them downstairs. That's what he said. And while everybody was off the floor, he hanged himself with his pajamas. I said, no. I said, my son was too intelligent. My son wouldn't have never hanged himself. Then we learned, they said he hanged himself with a jogging suit. Another lie was told. Then they said he hanged himself with his pants. Another lie was told. They carried him out in the cold with a polo shirt on and his pajamas. But thank God, I could have showed you all some things. But I will wait until time comes for it to be seen. They accuse him of murdering the security guard. We learned from a lady that was in the store. She said, your son didn't kill that security guard. She said, it wasn't him. And I leave that there. But anyway, pray for our family, and we'll pray for you. God bless you.
Jeff?
We're going to take a break from the testimony, and I'm just going to speak to some facts, some figures, and a little bit of information about IPRA. Is everybody familiar with what IPRA is? Let's start off there.
Hey, who are you, brother?
I am Jeff Baker, working with the Alliance and the president of the Committee for a Better Chicago. First off, IPRA is the Independent Police Review Authority. The key word in that title is review, because that's about all they got the power to do. Right. And then they can suggest, after they review, they can suggest, well, maybe you should discipline this guy. And if the superintendent says, no, maybe I shouldn't, then they don't. There's a slight, a little bit of a process that goes in between one and the other, but there's very little oversight. There's no control. They do not have the right to discipline. I hope everybody got a packet and you get a chance to look in your packets, and there's a lot more information that you'll be able to go through, take a look at it, read about what IPRA can do now and what this proposed legislation is all about. Because one of the steps in the many pieces of this puzzle is us pushing this legislation to have some type of control over the police that police and abuse us. Because if they don't fear discipline, why would they stop to think twice about pulling a gun and shooting it? If no police officer has been disciplined for shooting a community member, why would they not shoot first? I'm sure they're terrified out there because they haven't been properly trained. So why not shoot first? We have to provide some type of discipline, not just oversight, but control. Next frame, number 2, please. This is their mission. It is the mission to conduct fair and thorough and timely investigations into allegations of excessive force, domestic violence, bias-based verbal abuse, and coercion made against Chicago made by Chicago police, accusations made against Chicago Police Department members. Ultimately, IPRA's purpose is to ensure that the CPD members who have committed proven misconduct are disciplined, and those who have been wrongly accused are cleared through investigation that the people of Chicago can trust. I put that in red because it was funny. I cannot trust the investigation that ends in you merely suggesting that an officer that you found guilty, merely suggested, be disciplined, and you have no power to do so. Next frame. Number 3. So the officers, this is the burden of proof. The officer is considered innocent until proven guilty, and the superintendent has the burden to prove the charges by a preponderance of the evidence, a less rigorous standard than the beyond a reasonable doubt. And I put that up there because IPRA actually has the authority to not hold these police officers to the same standard as you or I would be held in a court of law.
That's right.
It's a less standard.
Yes.
A preponderance of the evidence, meaning, you know what, maybe you have 8 people testifying that he didn't do anything, 8 officers, that he didn't commit a crime. But you have this one person who seems extremely believable, and she has slightly more facts, or a video against the 8 people that are testifying nothing was wrong. That video against these 8 folks that are corroborating this police officer story, that's preponderance of the evidence. They have the authority to make that decision. Yet, can we go to the next frame? These are the numbers. I had been talking about these numbers off the top of my head, and I had actually underestimated them, so when I looked at them again, I was flabbergasted myself. Total allegations of notifications, meaning crimes against the community. People said the police officer did something to me. 9,643. Out of that 9,643, 3,067 were actually investigated by IPRA. 3,067. We're going to skip down to the bottom. Out of that 3,067, 47 cases were sustained. Click to the next real quick. 47 were sustained. Sustained means the allegation is supported and by sufficient evidence to justify disciplinary action. It's enough evidence to justify discipline. Now go back to the last one. Out of 9,643 cases, 47 were sustained. That is less than 0.5%. The police are damn near perfect when it comes to abusing you. And if we don't band together and take over control of the police, this will continue and it will get worse. If we don't continue to move forward together and exchange ideas and come up with creative ways to stop this violence perpetuated against the community, which I hope nobody believes that the violence between the police and the community does not affect the violence between the community against one another. I hope nobody believes that it does not affect the way that innocent people in their homes don't open the door to tell on the person down the street that was shooting randomly on the block. We don't trust you. I'm scared when you pull me over. Time. Last but not least, I got to wrap it up. No, you can't. Oh, okay. All right. Last but not least, I wanted to go through a couple of cases, but I won't do so. Please review the documents in your folders. Please reach out to us. We will reach out to you if we drop the ball. If we drop the ball and don't reach out to you, please call us up, say, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard from you. This is a grassroots movement. In grassroots movements, you don't have necessarily the professionals that you have in the capitalistic world with thousands and millions of dollars behind them. We're doing this on a shoestring budget or no budget at all, to be perfectly honest. There's no budget. We don't get paid. I'm out here because I care.
Yes.
They're out here because they care. So we may drop the ball. Help us to pick it up and move forward. Thank y'all. early on, somebody mentioned, I think frankly said that no political elected official had appeared. Well, that's not true. I mean, and I'm right now, and I'm very proud, extraordinarily proud, that not only did we have one official who has appeared, who is one of our representatives. I have known him for a number of years, and he has been involved in both working in the Hispanic and the African American community. He's been an outstanding patriot, if a patriot is a person who loves the people that he represents. And so we're going to ask him to come in because he speaks for a whole crowd of people, who may not be here. But at least we know we have an advocate who did come, and we want to recognize him, we want to acknowledge him, and I want you to give him a big round of applause, Jesus Garcia. I made an error too. We actually have an alderman here too. Thank you. I'm gonna let you know. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm going down some.
Good morning, everyone. I think Alderman Tony Folks is also joining me here this morning. What can I tell you? The testimony that I've listened to this morning is disturbing, is heart-wrenching, and probably what I was taken aback the most by was the people that came up here are normal people. They're everyday people. They're not political activists necessarily. They're not ringers. They're ordinary people who have suffered, who are living torture, who are raising the flags of warning that some things are amok in the criminal justice system. And they've shared their pain and their suffering, and they're calling us to band together and figure out how to create accountability in our police systems, whether it's the city of Chicago, the suburban area, and certainly there is room to think that we need to be looking nationally at everything that transpires, especially with the deep recession that we're living in, with all the tensions that poor communities are living through during this time, and the spike that we've seen in violence in the city of Chicago. If people are hurting and if there's a lot of madness in many communities and lots of violence, then it calls for policing to be more sensitive, more respectful, more transparent and accountable than ever before, not the other way around. So I want you to know that I've come here with an open mind. I've listened to the testimonies that you and your families and your loved ones are sharing with us. You're educating us about the urgency of having greater transparency and real accountability. I was reading the proposed model legislation, trying to understand the various facets of it, how it could function in the city of Chicago, what the challenge for Cook County government is. That's where I was elected to. I've been there for the past year and a half. And as I was hearing your testimonies, I was relating to the profiling that has gone on for several years in Cook County of immigrants. And not just Mexican immigrants and Latino immigrants, but immigrants from Africa, immigrants from the Caribbean, immigrants from Asia, who get pulled over oftentimes for appearing to look foreign, for not speaking English, for going to the doctor, for maybe making a right turn in violation of a traffic law and winding up in Cook County Jail and being deported as a result of that for taking your child to the doctor because you don't have a driver's license and you got pulled over because you can't get a driver's license in Illinois if you're an immigrant. So what I hear in the testimonies presented this morning, and I want to thank the Alliance for organizing this, for educating us, for helping us overcome our ignorance, our indifference, is that there is great urgency here, and that all of us are threatened by police departments that may be going wild, that may be forgetting about the first part of what most of them claim they're supposed to do, and that is to serve and protect people. Okay, serve and protect people. And ensuring that what the Constitution is supposed to guarantee each and every one of us is in fact upheld. I look forward to continuing the dialogue, to continuing the work with you as we explore how we bring concrete mechanisms to ensure police accountability, end abuse and police deadly force and excessive force, and how we eliminate racism from police departments everywhere in the country. Thank you very much.
Now we're going to have Alderman folks. I'm so proud that she came out today because this area is a part of, you know, her area where she works, and I'm just thankful, so thankful that you came out today.
Thank you.
And you got a chance to hear it. So we're going to have a word from her.
Okay, thank you.
For mayor.
I don't know about all that. But I just want to say, when I started talking, I know Alderman Folks is going to lead the building. Not me, but Alderman Folks, the title. If any of you know, before being alderman, I was a community activist. And I always fought for justice. And when I look back on my life, and I was in the union, and the only reason I was a union steward is because I was fighting for justice, that people in my company that wouldn't speak up. So I was the person that was fighting for them. And I did that. My mother, she was a union steward, so I grew up not knowing, but it was in my blood, and that's the reason I'm here. And one thing I want to say to all the families and everybody in here, including myself, may the light of God surround you. Because every morning when I get up, I have some oil in the bathroom so I don't forget. Because I know I got to fight when I go out there. So I got to anoint myself. And one thing I was taught as a child, and when you see me doing crazy things when everybody's going left or going right and I go left or vice versa, is that I'm calling on God. And let me do the right thing, because when they call me, I say I got to go home when I leave downtown. So I got to look at these faces. I got to look at the faces that put me here and expecting me to fight for them. You always got to remember that. And when Frank came to see me, we had a long conversation because I really didn't know anyone that had come to see me or talked about, or even in my personal life, that had gone through it. So I wanted him not to leave with me not having an understanding that there was any gray. Isn't that what I said? Because I know that when I get into something, and when if they come after me, you know, I heard someone say that the elected officials get mad. And I don't know why, but sometimes, you know, you get a little call or something. But I got to stand on what I believe. And what I was taught, that wrong is wrong. And right don't wrong nobody. So when I go down there to fight, I got to hold that. And God, you got to have my back. A lot of times in my old days, you would see me with my hand up. It wasn't the black power, it was God. You know see how he's holding his hand up, that baby? God, this is bigger than me.
Yes, it is.
So I got to grab up and hold my Father's hand. And that's what brings me through, and that's what's going to bring you all through. But you have, like they said, you got to stand together. You gotta, as a community activist, all the folks just left the building, you have to make elected officials do what you put them there to do. Okay? And if you don't, then that's on you. And when I was, and many of you knew I was in Acorn. And then, and I taught leadership classes. And people worried about if somebody marched on me, if my own friends marched on me. If I taught them and they don't hold me accountable, that means I have not taught them right. So I got to do right by my people. All right. So hold on, keep building and growing, keep God in the front. You'll achieve victory, excuse me. And God bless every one of you. Thank you so much for coming.
All right, we're running a minute. That was great. I want to thank Jesus and also the alderman for coming. That makes me feel. No, I ain't gonna speak. I want to thank you. You laughing, Sister Morgan. All right, we're going. The timing is excellent. We're going to bring up some messages of solidarity from some organizations. I think that we have 3, and we're going to, because of we're doing this on KNTV, we're going to ask them to give a solidarity message of 3 minutes from their organization, giving solidarity as to what is going on with us. So we're going to ask you to come up. Jeff?
Yes.
You got the names of them?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. As the brother said, a message of solidarity. First, we would like to call Matt McLaughlin with Occupy Chicago movement. Thank you, Matt.
My name's Matt McLaughlin. I'm with Occupy Chicago. As you can all see, I'm a white male, and just stating the obvious, and being so though, growing up, police repression and brutality wasn't something that I had ever experienced or come in contact with due to my white privilege. It was something that I saw on TV, something that happened to other people. It disgusted me, but it wasn't something that affected me or my friends. And before I go any further, I guess I just want to say that the injustices that we've been hearing about all day, what the Occupy movement has gone through pales in comparison to all of these things, and that these injustices are really why we're in the streets and fighting to make a better world, so that none of us have to go through any more of this. As you've all seen across the country, the Occupy movement has faced massive amounts of police repression, everything from tear gassings to mass arrests, so on and so forth. And for most of us, we never would have experienced any form of police repression had we not taken to the streets to get out a message of mass income inequality, that the 99% of us in this country are being oppressed by a 1% class that is destroying what is left of our sham democracy, that's destroying our lives and destroying the planet we live on. What's happened in Chicago really hasn't been much different than what we've seen happen to many of the Occupy protesters around the country. During the NATO summit, we saw mass beatings occurring to my brothers and sisters in the streets who were trying to highlight the fact that our mayor spent $60 million creating a police state in this city when many of our social services are being cut. To protect war criminals who really should be behind bars, but instead they spent that money trying to beat up people speaking up for a better world. Just real quickly, I just wanted to highlight, I guess what I see as the biggest injustice that has occurred to the Occupy movement, which is the case of the NATO 5, which many of you may have heard about. There are 5 young activists who are being held currently on terrorism charges. They could all be facing life imprisonment for crimes that they didn't commit. They were set up much like the people that we see set up every day on the south and west sides of this city. These were great guys. 3 of them came up here from Miami about a month ago and were helping hold down the Woodlawn Mental Health Clinic that Stop Chicago and the mental health movement have been protecting, trying to keep 6 of 12 mental health centers open. One of the other gentlemen, Mark Neiman, who's better known as Miggs in Chicago, was a street medic. These were not the makings of terrorists. They were good kids, and they could have been just about anybody. And we know they're innocent. And the reason we know they're innocent is because what happened was entirely predictable. It's part of a script that we see rolled out anytime people rise up and try to tell the powers that be that the world we live in needs to change. They send in undercover agents to provoke, set up, and entrap young activists. And what happened to them is a pattern. We've seen it happen to, Stephanie talked earlier about her case, the Cleveland 5 in Cleveland earlier this May, the RNC 8 and the Texas 2. So if you'd like to hear more about their case, I highly recommend going to nato5.occupyshy.org. And I also would recommend checking out a NPR episode of This American Life called Turncoat, which highlights Brandon Darby, who was an undercover agent who ruined 2 young men's lives who were also only trying to make a better world. And before I wrap up really quickly, I just want to highlight why they're doing this, and it's because we're winning. We're sending out a message and things like this today that are highlighting the injustices that we're all facing. And no amount of repression should stop any of us from speaking up. We need to keep fighting. We need to highlight things like we're doing here today. And keep fighting for a better world. And I hope next time we're in the streets, we see you all there. Thanks for having me.
We have a representative from the Arab Action Network, Brother Mohammed.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for having me here, rather, and thank you to Mr. Chapman, who we had numerous phone conversations to make sure that I would be here. And I just wanted to say I'm very humbled hearing all of the stories that I've heard today. And I just want to share a little bit in our message of solidarity about drawing the connections between the Arab and Muslim communities and obviously when we're talking about police brutality and mass incarceration, we're talking mostly about the Black and Latino communities in the United States. So there's a context to how our community gets repressed, which is mostly by federal authorities working with local authorities, and that's the United States foreign policy, of course. The United States has interests and starts wars in countries where we come from, and they have to have the face of the enemy, and the face of the enemy becomes those who live and work within the United States who are incarcerated and raided and suppressed on trumped-up terrorism charges so that we can justify what the United States government is doing back in our homelands and back in our families in our homelands. To draw another parallel, when money goes into counterterrorism, when they show faces of people across the world who supposedly want to kill Americans, that money goes to not only the United States military, but to Border Patrol and to militarizing police departments within the United States. It is very important that we draw those parallels. What happens to our families back home, what happens to those of us back home in the Arab world, within the Muslim world, and the laws that they try to pass directly affect what happens on the south side of Chicago. The reason why cops have armor-piercing bullets, not the only reason, of course, but one of the reasons why cops have armor-piercing bullets and look more like military personnel that are fighting a war and not people who are supposed to be serving and protecting the community is because they can use the lies of terrorism and false, this false threat to beef up and to pour millions of dollars into militarizing the police that are patrolling the streets right here in Englewood, for example. This has happened long before 9/11, but of course has picked up since 9/11. And just to draw, again, there are so many parallels that, you know, it's almost comedic if it wasn't very tragic. The NYPD and in cahoots with the FBI and possibly the CIA have been spying on Muslim and Arab and South Asian community centers, both religious and secular, all across the East Coast, and this has just come out. And our very own police superintendent that was brought by our new mayor was part of the NYPD when all of these things started happening. And then he was taken to New Jersey. And before he was brought to Chicago from New Jersey, and while he was being brought, there were outstanding civil rights violations cases against him. And this was the person that they decided to bring to the city of Chicago to quote unquote serve and protect. I want to share a very small story. One of the things that the Arab and Muslim and South Asian communities within the United States are facing right now is issues of entrapment. I want to share a story of a woman who I recently met, whose name is Shahina. Shahina is an immigrant from Pakistan, and her husband is physically disabled, and her entire family are living within New York City, and her only son was the sole breadwinner for the family. Her son was 19 years old when the NYPD and the FBI, through things such as the Joint Terrorism Task Force, decided to frame him up. And what they did is, for 2 years, an FBI agent that was working with the NYPD, an informant rather, who came from the Arab and Muslim community, who was paid tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to do so, incited this young man to say that he hated the United States, to say that he wanted to hurt people, to say that he wanted to do these things. And I need to just pause to tell you who are the people that they are targeting. This young man, who is 19 years old, has an IQ of 73. This young man is what we would call developmentally disabled. And his mother says it very openly. She says, my son needed help. My son needed services. He didn't need the NYPD and the FBI trying to entrap him on false terrorism charges. That's not what he needed. He needed help, and he needed services. That's what serving and protecting means. Not locking up our youth. Not sending him and locking him away for 30 years in a CMU. So again, we just want to say we are, of course, in solidarity with all of you here today and all of you who have suffered tremendous loss, and those who are still fighting, and we will be alongside you as we fight, not only for those of us and those of us who have family back home, but those of us who have neighbors and friends and allies right here in Chicago that are suffering as well. Thank you.
Khalid Abdullah will now speak on behalf of National Jericho Movement.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful, and I extend a word of appreciation to all my respected elders, all my brothers and sisters, and all of my people who have gathered here. We all being sons and daughters of Adam, we are all one family. Frank asked me a few weeks ago to address the issue of COINTELPRO, and not to diminish or belittle the seriousness and the pain and suffering of any of the cases that have been articulated on today, but COINTELPRO is the ultimate police crime. And I say that because to this day, there are hundreds of people who have been locked up 30, 40, one man going on 50 years for no other reason than as a group of men and women, black, white, and brown, Latino, African descendant, anti-imperialist right and anti-racist right. They were organizing and mobilizing to put an end to the same repression, oppression, and tyranny that we suffer under today. COINTELPRO is the code word for counterintelligence program. It began in 1956 because key people in government, just as today, were frustrated with the Supreme Court's tendency to intervene in such a manner that the rights of people were protected and looked out for. So therefore, COINTELPRO was set in motion in order to put an end to effective work against this oppression of this system of oppression under which we suffer. Some of the most familiar cases of COINTELPRO are the assassination of Hashmi Shabazz, who most of you probably know as Malcolm X. When Malcolm X was assassinated, one of the very first people that ran to his side as he lay bleeding to death was a man named Eugene Roberts. Eugene Roberts, it was found out, was a member of the New York City Police Department's Bureau of Special Services Investigation Services. The same Eugene Roberts infiltrated the Black Panther Party a few years later when the city of New York tried to railroad 21 Black Panthers to prison once again for organizing and mobilizing the people to stand up for their independent rights. The same Eugene Roberts. As well, COINTELPRO was the operation that ultimately resulted in Martin Luther King's assassination. It's a fact that in a particular incident, a letter was written by an FBI agent suggesting to Martin Luther King to kill himself when it had become public notice of a very embarrassing situation that the Reverend had gotten involved in that they thought they could use to cause him so much embarrassment that he would want to end his own life. And we are all aware of the assassination of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, which was definitely a COINTELPRO operation. Today, COINTELPRO continues. It has not ended, it has been upgraded. The drug war and the war on terror are being executed following suit to the rubric of COINTELPRO. The drug war is being used as a means of containing, controlling, and neutralizing any possible revolutionary threat from ever taking root and germinating in the youth of African and Latino descent. This is what is going on with this drug war. They're simply trying to impose a situation where they can keep our youth controlled and contained and sent into these prisons where they can profit off of them. Likewise, the war on terror is being used to address the issue of the resurgence of Islam as a viable alternative way of life by castigating it as a religion of wanton violence practiced by religious extremists and fanatics. This monologue is repetitiously bombarded to the multimedia in order to project Muslims as being fundamentalists who will kill any and everyone. And at the same time, they are attempting to completely subdue every segment of the Muslim global population by maintaining some sort of martial order wherever they try to formalize their own military operations. In closing, it has been almost a half century since Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were assassinated. Martin Luther King took up the call that Malcolm was making when he was assassinated. And that was the call for revolution. If we are to ever achieve the independence, the self-determination, and the right to live and pursue happiness as the U.S. Constitution reads, we are going to have to take serious the call made by Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Our current predicament and all the symptomatic problems plaguing us are on account of our failure to practically and realistically respond to that call. In closing, I want to make one last observation. As one of the former speakers stated, you got to understand that the psychology and the pathology that being the problems mentally that the people have that are in control of this government is resulting in a program of genocide. And that genocide is being used in such a manner that is affecting the psychology of our youth who are consequently engaging in this fratricide. A lot of people say that, why are you going to talk about the police killing our youth when the youth are killing themselves? But they're only killing themselves as a result of having a system forced upon them that they are totally foreign, is totally foreign to their nature, and it's also suppressive. So thank you very much, and hopefully we will all be working together in the future.
Cam Howard will speak on behalf of Amos Wilson Institute.
Hotep, which is the ancient greeting of peace. I am happy that I got an opportunity to come behind Brother Khaled, because what he dealt with is what I really want to get into in greater detail. When Howard Morgan, many people know about Howard Morgan, who was shot 28 times by the police. Yes. After he was, his sentencing hearing was denied, I went back as the executive director of the Amos Wilson Institute. My job, in part, is to analyze the issues that affect our community from a psychological perspective, as Dr. Amos Wilson has taught. And I went back and I wrote a piece that looks at this entire police apparatus as it affects the African community, and it was entitled Black Folks' Delusional and Amnesic Relationship with the Police, Quasi-Police, Extra-Police, and Judicial Forces of the Corporate State called America, and subtitled An Amos Wilson Institute Response for Stefan, Trayvon, Rekia, Howard, and the others counted on the list of 28. I wrote this in March. The list of 28 represented a list of 28 men and women who were murdered across America by the police or extra police forces that was compiled by the Malcolm X grassroots movement. That list now reaches, that was 3 months ago, that list now is at 120. And so in 3 months, it is quadrupled. And we hear about Stefan, we hear about all the people who testified here, Rekia and others, but we don't know about the other 120 or so that is going on nationwide. The brother talked about an epidemic. But I entitled this The Delusional and Amnesic Relationship That We Have with the Police. Delusion is defined by an unrealistic relationship to reality. When we hold on to things in spite of the sometimes painful consequences that result of us holding on to this non-realistic view of things. For instance, that the police are here in our community to serve and protect. That the police is a legitimate legal authority in our communities. They're illegal. That we are citizens in relationship to the police. When we are delusional when we hold these, and I heard a lot of people talk about, but they're supposed to serve and protect. That is not why they're here in our communities in relationship to African people. We are amnesic when we don't know their original purpose. Let's look at the police, how they were designed. In America, there's not always been a police force. The police grew out of the Paddy Patrol system. This was a group, a force of poor Irish men who came together at the behest of planters to patrol the byways and highways to prohibit African people from freeing themselves from enslavement. They were called patrolmen then, and we're called patrolmen today. Their main purpose for existing was to deny the legitimate liberation and humanity aspirations of African people. That purpose has went unchanged. When we get the testimony by the parents, when we see the report by the Malcolm X grassroots movement, we'll see that primary purpose of the police has gone unchanged for 300 plus years in the African community. How do I know that? History will show us that. Throughout the period of enslavement, they denied the humanity of our ancestors. If they escaped, they brought them back, they beat them, they whipped them, they sometimes murdered them in front of the rest of the Africans to thwart their aspirations of freedom and liberty, to deny their humanity. Once you put a person back into enslavement, they're no longer human. They are chattel, they are property again. And so they denied their humanity. Now, after enslavement, we grew up the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan were the poor soldiers of the Confederate Army. The Knights of the White Camellia were the wealthy soldiers of the Confederate Army. What was the role of the Ku Klux Klan? To deny the aspirational liberty of African people and to thwart their humanity. We know that every police force in the South, there was Knights of White Camellia and the Ku Klux Klan, this extrajudicial force on those forces. So for 100 years, the terrorism, the denial of aspiration, denial of liberty for African people went unchanged by these police forces, these so-called forces to create law in this society. Khaled talked about 1956, the counterintelligence program. The counterintelligence program was created by the FBI, the nation's police force. What did? They codified this purpose of the police. They said in this memorandum, we're going to deny the rise of a Messiah. What is a Messiah? A person who inspires his people or her people to freedom, liberation, the reclamation of their humanity, to live as free individuals in a particular society. So the FBI, the nation's police, the nation police force says, we're going to continue this purpose and we're going to codify it. We're going to make this the national purpose, and we want to enlist every police operation in the country, state, federal, state, local, and quasi-police forces to mandate this particular purpose. There was a group of young men and women who said, we know that this is the real purpose of the police, and we're going to organize, and we're going to defend against this purpose. That group was called the Black Panther Party. That was their sole purpose for organizing, that they were going to make sure that the police did not carry out with their purpose, their original purpose, and we are amnesic when we do not move from the point that that is the purpose of the police in our community. We fast forward to the 1990s, the CIA. We know that the CIA brought the drugs in our community. We know this. We know this. It's not something I'm saying. It is on record. And so now, what did the CIA do when they brought the drugs in our community? They began locking up the brothers, denying our humanity, denying our freedom. They created the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Association, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. They know that where all the gun manufacturers in America, they know where these guns are going. But the purpose of the police in relationship to African people, and it's spilling over to people the Arab community and to the Anglo community in our community in the city. But the purpose, the initial purpose of the police has gone unchanged. And when we begin to organize, we got to organize from the fact that they are an illegitimate force in our community. They're not legitimate. They are not a legitimate force. They were never designed to be legitimate in relationship to the African people. It has gone unchanged for 400 plus years. We are not citizens in relationship to the police. We're citizens when we have to pay our taxes, but in relationship to the police, they do not see us as citizens. We have to operate from that effect. When I'm going to conclude. When the brother put up that slide, 9,000 complaints, 47 found to have some sustainable conclusion that there was some wrongdoing. If you operate from the understanding that the purpose of the police is to thwart the humanity of African people, deny them their liberty, kill them at will, you can understand those numbers. They have to be that way. How does every interaction with the police nationwide for the last 200 plus years, where African life is lost, is justified? It can only be justified if they're doing their job in relationship to the African people. It cannot be justified any other way. And I'm going to leave with that. And I thank you for the opportunity to share, because we have to operate from a standpoint of mental sanity. We are delusional as a group, white, black, Americans, however you want to call it, if we do not understand the purpose of the police in relationship to our community, and we are amnesic if we don't understand the 300 years or 400 years of unchanged behavior in regards to our people from the police. Thank you.
We're doing real good, but we got to close it down a little bit. We're going to have one more speaker, and then we're going to have Frank, and then we're going to have Ms. Morgan come up, and we're going to wrap it up so we can close the can today. But I think it's been wonderful, and we're on the time schedule. Give yourselves a big round of applause. We got one more person. We're going to do a brief presentation, then Frank Chapman and Ms. Morgan is going to come up, and then we're going to wind it out. And I think it's been an excellent, excellent forum.
Evelyn Johnson will now speak briefly on behalf of We Care.
Good morning. My story is too long to tell, so I'm going to give you snippets about intimidation on the police. I no longer live in Englewood. I no longer live in Englewood because of intimidation by the 7th District Police Department. When they decide, and Mr. Myers, Attorney Myers can tell you, I am very well known in the Englewood community. as working for the betterment of Englewood. But let me tell you what they do. And in the process, in less than 3 years, exactly 27 months, I have lost 3 grandsons. Can I prove that Chicago Police Department was involved? No, I cannot, but I can tell you this. If you talk to young people on the street, some of those shootings that you see that are happening in our community, they are being paid by drug dealers who work under the auspices of Chicago Police Department. Do I know what I'm talking about? I have worked with 10 different commanders in the 7th District, and 2 of those commanders I reported to about what I call the pack rats that gather up at night and they go and intimidate people in the neighborhood. Yes, they do pay young boys to come and shoot people. Are there people cooperating? Would they tell you that we're not cooperating with the police about who the shooters are? They are lying. If you want to walk the street with me, I can introduce you to people who have lost their children and who have identified their shooters, and the police will tell them it's not enough evidence. To me, if somebody see you do the shooting, that's the evidence enough. You got a witness. If somebody is willing to come forward. In the last grandson that I lost, he was shot by a young man who had shot his brother 7 months before in a car driving down Marquette Road, who was identified to 7th District Police as the shooter. They did not arrest him. That same young man shot a woman on her front porch and her son in the face. Was he arrested? No. When we identified to 7th District Police Department that this same young man was walking past the lady's house every other day to intimidate her, no. That same young man is the same one that murdered the last grandson. So can I prove that Chicago police is involved in some of the murders in our neighborhood? No, but I got enough intelligence to look at the facts. Yes. So what I say to you is that if you're not involved in something, or no, maybe I better use Malcolm's words, if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for any damn thing. All right. And if you believe that the police, and somebody had the audacity to get up here and say that the police serve and protect us. All right. Let me tell you something. From Old Man Daly's days, in his words, the police serve and protect property. If you are not a property owner in the city of Chicago and don't pay property taxes, you're not represented. So this is all I'm going to say.
All right. All right. We're winding the can down. Next speaker is going to be Frank, and he's going to introduce Miss Margaret, and then we're going to have a brief, we're going to close out with a brief poem from Sister Sharice, and then the can goes down. But again, you've done a marvelous job.
Okay, well, Lou said a lot of what I was going to say, so I want to thank everybody for coming. There was an organizing committee that put this together. It wasn't just the Alliance, and it wasn't just me. So all of the members of the organizing committee, I'd like to stand up. Would you stand up, please? Come on, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Yeah, Ms. Morgan, you know. And, you know, some of the victims who were on the organizing committee, well, they didn't stand up. But, you know, this is a collective effort. Once again, I want to thank everybody for being here. You know, that's number one. Number two is, I want to use a word that wasn't used a lot in this meeting, but it's going to have to be used a lot if we're going to win this fight. And that word is unity. The people united can never be defeated. The people disunited are always defeated. Now, if we didn't learn anything, see, I lived through the 60s. I was a part of what a lot of people talk about, but they wouldn't have to be in it. Not as old as me. The one thing that defeated us was disunity. That's what defeated us. Because we were split up in all different kinds of groups. Everybody had a different agenda. You know, the FBI played on that. They played on that. They took the cultural nationalists and opposed them to the Black Panthers. You know, they took Malcolm X and opposed him to Dr. King, and vice versa. They did all that, you know. It's not just the letter that they wrote to King about killing himself, it's the letters that they wrote where they actually forged people's names on these letters and made it look like we were having an argument with each other when what was really going on was the FBI. was making us have an argument with one another. You know, we better learn. We better learn. Because we don't learn, it can happen again. Because the same forces that were in the field then are in the field now. We're trying to get some legislation passed. You got it in your packets, so I'm not going to, you know, I know you can read, so I'm not going to stand up here and go through it with you. Read it. Read about the legislation. If you agree with us, join our campaign. If you don't agree with us, start a different campaign of your own, you know. But don't do nothing, you know. Fight, you know. You fight. You know. Don't tell me I'm fighting wrong and I'm looking at you and you got both your hands in your pocket. Absolutely. You know. If you believe there's another way of doing this, we ain't tying you up. Go on and do it that way, you know. But don't talk to me about fighting if you're not fighting, you know. Yeah, don't talk to me about fighting if you're not fighting. I want to see you fighting too, you know. Then I hear you, because your actions drown your words out, you know. I can't hear what you're saying because your actions are too loud, you know. We want you to sign those petitions. We have a website. It's called Stop Police Crimes. We're going to put we got the legislation on there. So anything that you want to find out about us, it's no barrier. We have an office at 1325 South Wabash. We're going to move from there. We're going to move into Englewood. And the reason why we're going to move into Englewood because you got to be where the fight is at. You know, we can't be over there and fighting over here, you know. So we're moving over here, you know. Brother Bill, with the Black Panther Party project, Khalid spoke about the COINTELPRO before you came in. But we want you with us, man. We want you with us. We want everybody in here. Brother Ham, we want you with us. Cam, I'm sorry. Cam. Okay, all right. Enlighten me. We want you with us, you know. We want everybody with us. We want all of the families with us of the victims, you know. This is an alliance. That means an organization of different groups, different nationalities. We are multiracial, we are multinational, and also we come from different political positions, you know. So we can put those positions aside and fight for this one thing. The police are out of control, you know. Maybe we don't have the answer. Maybe getting this control board and whatnot is not, but one thing we do know, we know that the review board is not the answer, you know, and we know that we got to fight against the police continually, somebody used the word impunity, continually acting with impunity. I mean, they're being criminal, you know. Yes. And the brother who spoke before me, who gave the historical analysis of why this is true, you know, that makes sense to me, you know, that they are serving a purpose, you know, and that purpose is to keep us oppressed. Right. You know, that's the purpose, okay? Having said that, now let's fight against it, you know. We got no problem. Okay. I'm gonna bring it on. Let me look at my clock. Okay, I gotta hurry up, yeah. Miss Morgan, I asked her to round this up because I met her over at the Church of the Living God, where she familiarized me with the case of her husband and whatnot, who was shot, 28 times. 28 times, yes. And still lived, yes. You know. So he's a voice that they couldn't kill, that they couldn't silence, you know. And so, this is very important to our movement. I asked her to join this, and she said she would. Am I not talking loud enough?
Can we wrap it up?
Okay. Okay, let me wrap it up. Let me wrap it up then. Ms. Morgan, I'm gonna let her say in her own words why she thinks we should continue with this movement. And then, you know, we're going to stay in touch because everybody, we're going to have to get back with you. Did everybody sign in and all that stuff? Okay, so we're gonna be getting in touch with you. We're gonna be doing some other things. Come on, Ms. Morgan.
How are you today? We did not come here today to just sit down on our bottoms, now did we? God is real. Yes, he is. All right? I'm Evangelist Rosalind Morgan. I came to encourage you and to let you know this, that an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. It's global. We have heard your stories today. We have felt your heartfelt desires. Fathers are incarcerated. Children are dying. Mothers are crying. Where is our future? Our future, their future, of the ones that are in the grave that can no longer breathe and be here with us today? Think about the ones that are alive. They are already unjustly treated when they were shot and murdered the way that they were. The perpetrators are still going free, right? But where are our loved ones? We're walking in faith. Hebrew, the 11th chapter, the first verse says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. We want to see this legislation, we want to see it birth. This is a birth for it. As we progress in time, it may become a rebirth. But right now, the Alliance and all of us have come together. Mr. Pearson, Fred, all of us, my brother, Lou Myers, all of us have come. We have spoken today. When we speak of one another, we must continue to galvanize our talents. Get on the internet, find out what is going on. We're walking in faith because we stand to run this race. Hope is there for us. If we hold on to it, we will sit down no longer and have the tyranny of oppression upon us. We must remember at all costs that the needs of the many perhaps sometimes might outweigh the needs of the few or the one. Well, who is the one? The one that if it happened to you and rang your doorbell, it happened to me and it rang mine, it can very easily knock on your door and do the same. But will you turn your back to it and turn yourself in shame? No, turn yourself back around and say, today I will gain. Where I have lost, I will gain. Where I was downtrodden, I will stand up. If my back is against the wall, I do know that the God I serve said I will be with you in the morning, in the afternoon, and even at night. So all of the things that we're talking about today, let it not end here today. Let us come together. September the 8th is our Jericho walk. We are walking for the injustice of the world, all the way around the world. We are walking Saturday, September the 8th for our kickoff Jericho Walk Parade. Our CEO is Bishop Connie Banza. We are here standing in line together, and we're standing side by side. It doesn't matter the skin color that you possess. It matters the content of your character and what we stand for. Do we stand for injustice? You have righteous police and you have unrighteous police. The unrighteous police are the evil ones. That's why we're here today. We're not here for the good police because they do exist and they are out there. We must assist them as they must assist us. We don't wake up every day thinking that how do you feel, you pull over. Why? Because of the color of your skin? A police stop you, a black man, you're intimidated, you're afraid. That should not be. If your skin color matches the light in the ceiling, you're less intimidated and you're less afraid. I want to encourage you. Walk in faith. Stand in hope. Don't sit and let it go by. The ones that are dead in the grave, they cannot talk. Mr. Howard Morgan was shot 28 times, a railroad police officer, a seasoned police officer that did not commit the crime, found not guilty in the first trial, acquitted of shooting his weapon. That wasn't good enough for him. That wasn't good enough for them. They took him out of the vehicle, took him down to the ground. C. Gunn, he's a police officer. He would have it with him. Around the corner from our home, 4 white Chicago police officers from the 10th District. Then what do? You began to try to assassinate him. For what reason? Because he's black at 12:45 a.m. in the morning. Now, do we stand for that? He didn't ask to be black. He didn't ask to be white, Asian, Hispanic, or anything else. God gave him what he is. And that's why we are here today to let you know. If they can do it to Howard Morgan, forget the double jeopardy, take you back to trial after you've been found not guilty for shooting your weapon. If you're not guilty for shooting your weapon and there are no other weapons charges, no bat, a knife, or whatever, then my God, why does the first-degree attempted murder still stand to your name? It should have been resolved, but it was not. We don't want the lives of those that have gone on to be resolved with no justification behind it. There was none. But what we're standing here for today is to say, we must stand together, and we're only going to get through this in love. We can't battle for battle or gun for gun with the police. We have to sit at the love table and come together and tell them we demand that you do your job on a righteous note that you were hired to do. We don't hire murderers. We hire those that can help us. And how are you going to help? By coming to the table and reasoning together with us. This legislation is very important. It is the utmost importance in our lives. If we don't agree and be on one accord and stand together, God is holding us accountable. We can sit back and be ashamed of what has happened, but let us be gainful and knowing that God is anointing us and appointing us to do his will. Come together, love together, be together, call, check on your brothers and sisters. Find out what's going on with the youth. Don't just let a murder or a beating go by and you think nothing of it. And I'm going to end on this. What makes you think if they can get away with it with the babies that they won't next come after the senior citizens? They're coming after you, all right? So let's not let that happen. Mr. Morgan is 61. He's in Dixon Correctional Center. And let us stand together for the free Howard Morgan at gmail.com. He will be free. Now, the major thing is the appellate judges, watch it now, the 3 appellate judges that refused his appeal the first time, they're perhaps back on this appeal again for him. Let's not stand for it. Let's go with this because it is a good thing. And remember one thing, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Right. Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. We're going to close out. Fred, come on up here. We're going to take hear her poem. Fred has a brief thing, but I wanted you to know who he was because it's significant.
Yes.
This is the child of Fred Hampton.
Right.
Who is living, and the reason why I can say what I can say to him and his mother, you know, Deborah, I have known him all of his life. And
how old you are now?
I've known him since I was 12, and now I'm 29. So look, after we hear that, he's going to say a word because he did something which is classically Fred. He brought a sister in here today who's the subject of a loved woman to beaten. He wanted to mention it, but I wanted to mention him because from 69 until today, you see the manifestation of a warrior who died, you know, on the battlefield. Brother Colin was talking about the COINTELPRO kill him. So as soon as we finish that, and then we got to go because they've told me we got to leave. All right.
Thank you for them.
I'm sorry. No.
I'm good, bro. I speak fast anyway, but just real quick, I'm Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. We say the streets is our office. We out there on a day-to-day basis, work on different campaigns. This sister here just I don't know her. So another brother in the community had contacted her. She's in a situation happened 2 days ago on 79th in Laughlin, 2 days ago. I want to stress this because I don't want, a lot of times we wait till stuff is safe to talk about it. I don't want to sit there 40 years from now, we talking about how bad it was. Let's seize the time now. This is a situation just happened. I ain't talking about back in the 60s, I'm talking about 2 days ago, literally. I ain't talking, not Afghanistan, 79th in Laughlin, 79th in Laughlin. The police literally beat, tased her boyfriend, and basically told him because he wouldn't be a snitch and informant. That's something we got. Yes, this is going on in our community. Yes. They producing, they flooding our community with drugs, informants, snitches. Anybody that believes the police want to stop crime, you believe Don King want to stop boxing. Real talk. This is. I mean, we got to stop being clear about this. I'm saying. This sister, I never met her. She called me yesterday. I told her this hearing going on today. So we seized the time. We got here. The court. We need people to call down the state's attorney's office for the case of Antonio Hood. Antonio Hood. Demand these charges be dropped. This court date is July 25th at 26 in California. July 25th at 26 in California. 111th. Branch 38. At 1 o'clock. 111, Antonio Hood. We need people down there, to, you know what I'm saying? Even in the meantime, between time, flood the call into the state's attorney office, demand these charges be dropped. And we don't know, have you visited them yet?
Not today.
Okay, he was tased, beat down, but this whole thing about them forcing these young brothers and sisters to be snitches and informants got to be addressed also.
Yes.
That's they putting inside our community. They forcing these young brothers, the only occupation they get engaged in is selling drugs to the police. That's what they're doing to them, so we gotta be real clear on that. But again, I implore you, please make that court date July 25th on 111. Thank y'all for y'all time. Thank you, my love respect.
All right, we're gonna end, this is the end of it. We're gonna end appropriately with a poem, and then when she finishes, I want everybody to give yourselves, this has been really great. I'm sorry that we gotta rush out. The building people are gonna close, and so we gotta be out of here in the next, actually in the next less than 10 minutes. So thank you very much for coming.
Don't be burdened by sorrow. Take comfort in knowing I will feel no pain tomorrow.
Yes.
The weight I carried was too heavy down there. I am now free to fly up here. Light as a feather, I will spread my wings. From above, I can be all I was destined to be. Don't be burdened by sorrow. Take comfort in knowing I will feel no pain tomorrow. I am smiling down on you with all of my love. From above, I will be your protector, your glove. The ways of the world can be cruel and uncomforting. So God called me home to be a watchful eye for you. I've been assigned my job, and that is to see you through. So feel my presence and know that I am right here. I am walking with you, even at times when you feel no one cares. Don't be burdened by sorrow, because I am now soaring in the heavens above, embraced by God's mercy and comforted by all your support and love.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming out.
All right, one more thing, as you go out, there's some petitions that you might want to sign.